وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم لا علم إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت الحكيم العليم. اللهم لا علم إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت الحكيم العليم. اللهم لا علم إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت الحكيم العليم. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Alhamdulillah, I think it's a blessing that we came to an end of the Mathara for most of us. I think it's the first day of Ramadan, which Ramadan really is the month of Mathara. So it's fitting that we should end the study of the Matharat al-Qulub on the beginning of the month, which is really the greatest practical month for implementing all of the things that we've learned over the last 12 weeks about the heart. Because the purpose of Ramadan is to purify the heart with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the purpose of Ramadan. That's the blessing of Ramadan, and the secret of Ramadan is that it's there to purify the heart. And I want to say something about, I don't know how many people were here last night, but how many people saw the moon last night? How many people went out to look for it? About the same number. So I think for the people that were here last night, I think all of us had a very wonderful experience. Were you here with us? No? Who was here? I mean, wasn't that a great experience? Yeah. And I was thinking also, like this morning, about just yesterday and seeing the Hilal. And one of the things that came to me and struck me about it, and I actually think it's a very interesting perspective, and that is that when we saw the Hilal last night for the first time, what was happening is, for me, when I first saw it, I didn't know if it was there or not, and I actually thought my eyes might be playing tricks on me, because it was coming into existence and then disappearing. It was coming in and out, and I realized when we first went out there was nothing there but the light of the sun, and we had to wait, and then Venus showed up, and then after that, it took some time before we could actually see the small sliver. And what I realized is, Allah says, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَهِلَّةِ, they asked you about the new moons. And Allah responded to the message of Allah to tell them that really they're there just to tell time. But the Mufassirun say that the reason they asked about the Ahilla is they were trying to understand the mechanism. How is it that this new moon came into being? And the reason for that is that the ancients actually believed that every moon was a new moon, that it wasn't the same moon that was. It was literally a new moon, that it disappeared and then it started again. And they wanted to understand how that was happening. And what I realized is Allah didn't tell them. In other words, He didn't negate their belief. He just explained why the moon is there, which is its mawaqit, the nas, right? It's just a way of telling time. For people, Hajj, to tell the time of the Ramadan and Hajj. And one of the things that Qadi al-Bakr ibn al-Arabi said in his tafsir is that the secret of this ummah using a lunar calendar as opposed to a solar calendar is that the sun is used for worldly benefits, but the moon is used for otherworldly benefits. So the focus of time of this ummah is about otherworldly time, not about this world. And what I realize is if you look at it from a completely non-abstract perspective, what you're seeing when you actually witness the new moon is you are seeing what's known in philosophy as emergence. And this is the real problem for these people, is how things come out into existence out of nothing. Right? How does that happen? This is their problem. In other words, why is there something as opposed to nothing? And what you do, if you sit there, you're looking at the sky, and suddenly this thing emerges out of nothing right before your eyes, because you can't see it initially. And the reason you can't see it is because of the sun. The sun's light is too strong. And the reason you're able to see it is because the sun's light has dimmed, and what emerges is reflected light. So what you can see is the reflected light of the moon. And really what that is the entire creation is reflected light. Is Allah. I mean, Allah is, the entire creation is reflected light from Allah. The only reason we can see it is because Allah allows it to exist, and He's the one that brought it into existence, and He's the one that takes it out of existence. And so really what you're witnessing is this incredible event, which is Allah is letting you see reflected light come into existence. And that is the new moon. That's why it's istihlal. It's the birth. Right? It's the same way that you have years for a child to be born. It's the birth of reflected light, that is creation. Because it's all reflecting Allah. The whole thing is reflecting Allah. كيف يجحد الإله وكيف يا عجبا كيف يعصى الإله أم كيف يجحده الجاحد ولله في كل تحريكة وتسكينة أبدا شاهد وفي كل شيء آية تدل على أنه واحد. How strange that we can disobey Allah, or even stranger that people can disbelieve in Allah, when for Allah in every movement and stillness there's a clear sign, and in everything itself there's a sign. Right? So the creation are these meanings, right, set up in these images. And what we're doing is we're there to decode what these meanings are. And it's a real gift to actually see the birth of the new moon. And it's a gift. Right? And I think people felt that last night. Because one, you have, instead of ilm al-yaqeen, you have ayn al-yaqeen. And the Quran says that there's ilm al-yaqeen, ayn al-yaqeen, and haqq al-yaqeen. Ilm al-yaqeen is when you hear somebody. Imam al-Ghazali's example is when you hear somebody tell you that there's a fire in the forest, and you trust that person. That's ilm al-yaqeen. But it's not the same as seeing the fire yourself. So you go there and you see it, that's ayn al-yaqeen. And then he said, if you go and actually touch it, that's haqq al-yaqeen. Right? So you actually it's an amazing thing, the new moon. And that's Imam al-Hakim radiallahu anhu relates a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ was reported to have said, خَيْرُ عِبَادِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُرَاعُونَ الْأَذِلَّةِ وَالْأَهِلَّةِ ذِكْرًا لِلَّهِ. The best of Allah's servants are those who are vigilant about new moons and shadows for the prayer times as a way of remembering Allah. Right? And I think for us last night, the natural impulse when you saw it was to remember Allah. Right? To لِتُكَبِّرَ اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ. Allahu Akbar. It's Allahu Akbar. And then, for me personally, there was like a real nashat of Ramadan came into my heart, just of a feeling, a lot of energy, because it was Ayn al-Yaqeen. That's the Ramadan moon. So it's a real gift, the Ramadan. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. So, we went through the diseases of the heart. We looked at bukhal. First of all, we looked at he talked about adab and the importance of adab. And then we talked about the hukam of knowledge of the amrad al-qulub wa adwiyatiha and the treatments for it, which he said, according to Imam al-Ghazali radiyallahu anhu, is fard ayn. And then he went through alphabetically the diseases of the heart, and he obviously gives the most, these are really the most important ones. Sidi Ahmed Zarruq and Qadi Iyad actually narrow them down to about 4 or 5 ones that if you can control those, all the other ones actually are removed easily. But he began with al-bukhl. And Ramadan is a month to really to cure your bukhl, because they said the Prophet ﷺ كان أجود الناس وأجود ما يكون في شهر رمضان. He was the most generous of human beings, and he was more generous than ever in Ramadan, and they describe him karih and mursida, like a wind that brings gifts, fecundating winds. So bukhl, and then batar. Batar is batarat ma'ishatum, is to be happy with the dunya or the livelihood. للصائم فرحتان, right? His farha is حينما يفطر وحينما يلقى ربه, when he breaks his fast and when he meets his Lord. And so it's kind of the opposite of that idea of batar. And then bughd, Ramadan is a time where you're supposed to actually, he said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, أفضل صدقة في رمضان. The best sadaqah is in Ramadan. And then in another hadith, أفضل صدقة إصلاح ذات البين. The best sadaqah is rectifying between people. So the best sadaqah would be rectifying between people in Ramadan. That would be the best sadaqah. So this is a time to remove bughd from your heart about people. And then baghi, oppressing people. This is a time when you can't do you're fasting. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that if somebody tries to, إِذَا قَاتَلَكَ, right, وَأَنْتَ صَائِمْ فَقُولْ اللَّهُمَّ إِنِّي صَائِمْ. If somebody's fighting you, you say, I'm fasting. In other words, لَا تَبْغِي. Don't fight with them. Say, I'm fasting. Tell them you don't want to do that. And then حُبُّ الْمَنْزِلَةِ, love of position, right? Ramadan is about gaining a position with Allah. Because the reason, the secret of fasting is it's the only act of ibadah that nobody can tell you're doing it when you're doing it. You see, like if you give charity, it's an act, right? It's an act. If you do prayer, it's an act. If you make hajj, it's an act. All of the ibadah that Allah has given us are things that can visibly be seen. Fasting alone is you can be standing next to a person who's not fasting and a person who's fasting, and the only one that knows is Allah. So you're out here with all these non-Muslims, they see you, they don't know you're fasting. You look like everybody else, right? So the point is that hubb al-manzila, the manzila that you want is with Allah, it's not with people. And then hubb al-dunya. Ramadan is also weaning yourself from dunya, right? النفس كالطفل إن تهمله شب على حب الرضاع وإن تفتمه ينفطم. The nafs is like a child that if you neglect it, it grows up loving to suck, meaning love of dunya. But if you wean it, then it becomes weaned. So Ramadan is the time of weaning the soul from dunya and love of dunya. And then حب المدح بما لم يفعل, to love to be praised for things that you don't do. Ramadan is a time when you're supposed to witness the shortcomings of your actions and to recognize that you've wasted the whole year and now it's time to catch up. The ibadah, the qiyam al-layl you didn't do in the previous year, it's time to catch up in this month. All of the things that you neglected, the sadaqah, all those things. So what you're trying to do is do actions so that you warrant praise. Right? So it's a cure for that. Al-hasad, right? Envy, to purify the heart from envy. That if you can conquer, the envy comes from desire, right? If you can conquer desire, then you can remove envy from your heart. And desire is based, according to Imam al-Ghazali, on kasr al-shahwatayn, destroying the two, the qabs and the batan. If you can destroy those two desires, conquer them, not destroy them, but master them, then all the other desires become easy. And then al-haya al-madmoom, shame that's not praiseworthy. This is a time to have haya with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So haya for people without seeing Allah is blameworthy. right? So this is a time to have haya with Allah. خوض القلب فيما لا ينبغي الخوض فيه. One of the secrets of Ramadan that I'm going to go into from Imam al-Ghazali in a second is the fasting of the heart. Part of the highest fast in Ramadan is the fast of the heart. Not just the outward fast, but the inward fast. خوف الفقر. This is also a time to recognize provision is from Allah, and not to worry about your provision, and to give up your anxieties, and recognize that food is not something that you should be under the control of, but in fact you should recognize it for what it is. It's a ni'mah from Allah. It came from Allah, and that's why you praise Allah when you break your fast. You praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and recognize that that's coming from Him. Mudahana. It's things like this. When you're fasting, you can't tell lies. And mudahana is a type of lying. And you can't tell lies anytime, but in Ramadan it's much worse. Riya. This is the time, one of the blessings of Ramadan is even the worst Muslims suddenly become like awliya. So it's more difficult to have riya in Ramadan because everybody's at the masjid doing qiyam, and so you actually don't feel as significant as you would at other times of the year when you're doing ibadah, because everybody this is the time when everybody's doing ibadah. And so that's another important thing, is to remove that desire to be seen by others and desire to be only seen by Allah. خوف غير الله والرغبة فيه. Fear of other than Allah and desire of other than Him, again, relates to the same idea. سخط القدر, displeased with the qadr of Allah. As your iman increases, you become more content with the qadr of Allah. And one of the things that increases in Ramadan is the iman, by the nature of the month. Your iman will increase, inshallah, in this month if you do what the month entails us to do. And if we practice what is the want of the people that desire Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sum'a, the same. Tama'. Sum'a is desiring reputation amongst people, things like this. A-tama' is this desire. طول الأمل. One of, again, إذا العشرون من شعبان ولت فواصل شرب ليلك بالنهار ولا تشرب بأقداح صغار فضاق الزمان على الصغار. One of the things about Ramadan is to remind you of طول الأمل. You don't have much time. This is why when Allah says in the Quran, أيام معدودات, He uses, according to the ulama, جمع القلة, معدودات. It's a plural that's used for few, because He's reminding us you only have a few months, and a few days, and these days are precious days, so don't waste them. Don't waste them in khawd, don't waste them in empty talk, don't waste them in, right? كَرِهُ ذَوْكًا كَقَدْرٍ وَهَذَرٍ. Hadar is empty talk and excessive talk. There's no benefit in it. And then a tiyara is bad omens. Everybody will have bad omens. The Prophet ﷺ gave us the cure for it. إِذَا تَطَيَّرْتَ فَامْضِي. If you have a bad omen, just do what you're doing. You come, like in this culture, you come to a ladder. I grew up thinking it's bad luck to walk under a ladder, right? And before I was Muslim, I would have walked around it. Now you come to a ladder, still walk around it because something could fall from the top. But don't do it because it's a superstition. Do it, don't worry about things. Black cats, whatever, the Burma, right? The Arabs have the Burma. They have that in Tunisia? Burma? So, really? No. It's amazing. It's a Jahili thing, because the Jahili Arabs, if they saw an owl, it was a really bad sign. So if you see an owl, you say, Subhanallah. Seeing a lion? The Arabs? Oh, well, a lion is shaja'a, according to the Arabs. Whenever they use a lion, they mean courageous. Asadullah, yani shuja'ullah. It's a metonymy for courage. And then one, which is suspicion. You shouldn't have bad opinions of other people, especially in Ramadan. And then ghish, which is cheating, saying. Al-ujab, being impressed with the self, vanity. Ghadab, anger. One of the things of Ramadan is to learn how to control anger. Ghafla, heedlessness. Ramadan is a month to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should remember Him all the time, but more particularly in this time. Rancor towards other Muslims, one of the worst diseases. Fakhar, boasting, from Jahiliyyah. Kibrun, which is arrogance, pride. Karahatul dhanb, dislike of being blamed or censured. Karahatul maut, fear of death. Again, that hadith, من أحب لقاء الله أحب الله لقاءه. Whoever loves to meet Allah, Allah meets to love him. إن للصائم فرحتين. إن للصائم فرحتين. The Sa'im has two joys. فرحة حينما يفطر وفرحة حينما يلقى ربه. He has a joy when he breaks his fast and when he meets his Lord. And then Nisyan al-Ni'mah. This is a month also to remember the ni'mah of Allah. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تَحْصُوهَا وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. There's no ni'mah except it's from Allah. And this is a time really where we should be really reflecting on all of the blessings Allah has given us. At huzur, making fun of people, mockery, these type things, haram. And more importantly, so those are all the diseases of the heart.